something that is...
Right. So I completely agree with you. The signage at the station is very poor right now. There's one transit hub signage out there right by the plaza gates, and it does show where the Emery-Go-Round is relative to the other services, and then the various routes that serve the stations and the surrounding BART stations. What we need to do is we need to have our signs posted at the shuttle zone. We need to have a map and a service overview in the bus shelter, that will be kind of our phase 2 rollout of the new service plan. And to whatever degree we can put Emery-Go-Round's wayfinding signage closer to the plaza, that would also be beneficial.
Okay, so here we are, how many years later, with the system running, and there's not one sign. I mean, all the signage is poor there.
Right.
Would BART let you put up a standalone sign in the meantime?
They probably would let us put at least a directional sign over. The plaza frontage road has only been open for a year, so it has been open for 1 year. And
we're talking about the area where you exit.
We are now, because we have been moved temporarily to another area by the BART station.
To the south.
Right.
When
we
you
were on
exit.
40th Street underneath the overpass for a year, I think, while they did the construction. When they finished the construction, we had been in conversations with them to move our stop to a preferred location closer to the plaza. We had a lot of feedback from our riders who were very dissatisfied with having to walk the distance to catch the Emery-Go-Round bus. So we were really pushing hard for BART to reconsider the circulation plan and the use of stops closer to the BART plaza. This is a lot more involved than just BART. The city of Oakland has to be involved, and they are now engaged. Unfortunately, it's taking so long for any decisions to be made. So I just would like to go forward, put signage up where we are now.
Even if it's temporary signage that you have to move it. I mean, we're talking really like 2 or 3 signs.
Right.
And the distance to the bus stop where it is now isn't really that far. Once a person exits to the road and the curb, with a sign pointing to the right, and then with a sign that you could see it's 100 yards down, I mean, it would be very obvious. I mean, I really feel terrible for people that maybe don't speak English, coming from the airport, you're exhausted. I mean, it's so basic.
Right.
And not that expensive.
We can see if we can get temporary, if we can't move forward with our project with the signage that we have here approved, then we can at least get our logo and an arrow pointing to the direction and temporary signage. Okay, as long as we can get approval from BART to do that.
And I would also suggest that you have signs on the bus.
Yeah,
with the route.
Just to give a little information about why they use the white buses. Okay, we have enough fleet to run our entire service. It's all about air brake certification. If new drivers, air brake certification. So all of our Emery-Go-Round buses require air brake certification licensing of the drivers. They have a lot of temporary drivers right now. The service is suffering tremendously. There's a driver shortage. We don't have enough drivers to run, so we've got contracted drivers now coming, running our service that don't have the certifications that are required to drive our buses.
But all that aside, a taped sign
I agree.
in the window
that
says either Hollis Street or Powell Street.
They should be having signs no matter what, so I'm not sure why they
didn't. Very simple.
Right. And we are really discouraging the use of these buses altogether because they're not going to have the tracking devices in them. They won't be able to be seen on the real-time tracking system either now or in the future.
This is a labor problem, really.
It is a labor problem, exactly.
Equipment problem.
Right, exactly.
I did try to determine where I was using my phone, and it wasn't tracking the bus I was on. It was just tracking some other bus.
Yeah, because those buses won't have the trackers on them.
Yeah.
They're just temporary.
And the public doesn't know that if they go onto the website to try and figure out where they are.
Right. Yeah. We will work with our operator to make sure that if they're using a temporary bus, that they must post signage in the windows.
Absolutely.
That's an easy thing to do.
Just 3 follow-up things to piggyback off of your comment. When we do have white buses and they do put the signage, it's behind tinted windows. So that's not from the back window or the side window. When they put it behind a tinted window, you can't see it. So there's got to be, maybe it might be helpful to put on the website to say, here is, we've got to use temporary, buses. Here's where the signs will be positioned. Maybe somewhere more prominent, even if it's not raining, even something on the outside
You
sign.
could buy magnetic signs, have those printed, or vinyl ones. They're
Right.
not expensive, they go right on,
Right.
and if you have to peel it off, you peel it off.
I also remember Bart talking about a remodel of the MacArthur Bart Plaza, which I don't know we've touched upon before, so I don't know where they're at with that. Like more lighting, more seating, or redesign of that plaza. So maybe I don't know where this whole process
They've got, it's gonna be at least a year, I'm sure, until that's done. So I'm aware of that they're gonna be improving the area. They're also talking about putting lighting under 40th Street. I really am pushing that we move under 40th Street. I think it would be a much more preferred location for our service. It's in the shade, it's not under the sun when it's hot summer or raining. If we can get them to move us, that would be ideal. But I'm not gonna, since we're a year out from those decisions, we just need to
It looked like there was a
be comfortable where we are now, for the time being, and accept the place that we're
I
in.
recall there was a shelter there.
There is a shelter. Unfortunately, the shelter is glass and it does not protect you from the heat elements. It's like an oven.
Yeah.
So people are sitting under there for shelter, don't have shelter. It's not gonna shelter you from the sun.
But one could put a sign there too.
Yes, so the next, like I said, the next project is gonna be first this bus stop signage project, which will be mounted near the bus stop, and then the shelter signage, which can be mounted within the shelter. It'll be a much larger sign with the route maps and the service overview and just all the information you need to know about how to download the app. All of this will be rolled out together.
I will say with that glass shelter though, both of them can get filthy, and I don't know how often Bart is cleaning those shelters or if we can get on them about that. But I wouldn't want to step inside of there based on what's sitting on the sidewalk in front of those seats where our feet are going to be. It's really filthy. So I'm sure it's a Bart maintenance issue.
Yeah.
But and I know they're going to say there's a lot of vandals and such. But I mean that's not a welcoming thing either for riders coming off of Bart.
Right.
And so Ronnie, what I hear from the board really is, and from you also, is we can't wait for the future to come because it comes always slower. So we need to make the system work. If we have a labor problem, that means we have unmarked buses. We got to just spend the money to make it work every day because we run every day. And we can't, it may be inefficient to put some signs out until we have a better plan, but we may never have a better plan because Bart,
Right.
they have a lot more issues than MacArthur Bart. They probably figure we just redid that. It's great.
Right.
Their whole rest of their system is incredibly troubled. Maybe we're all going to vote to give them a boatload of money,
Right.
Later this year. I don't know, but I don't think any of these things are going to be solved by them.
Right.
So we're saying
Easy
take
fix.
initiative.
Right.
Don't count on anyone else.
Right.
Any other comments? Let's go to the business then.
Okay, great.
The minutes are attached. Does anyone have any comments or corrections? If not, I'd like a motion to approve them. And a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded? I missed.
No,
Thank you, Bobby.
Any objections or abstentions? None. Okay.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we had a few comments on the,
Before you jump in, don't
Sure.
you want to give like a general report, or is this business?
this is
enough?
all we're doing right now, so yeah, it's more.
Okay, well, I'm gonna
we
then
can- okay,
intercede.
go ahead.
I mean, maybe you were gonna, we met with our bus yard landlord,
Oh, yes.
LBA, and I just want to give a quick update. The big picture is we're gonna still work with them on a long-term solution, but they did agree to give us a short-term extension. Now, it may not be long, but they terminated us effective
December 31st.
December 31st. And verbally, at least, they said we could probably give you another 6 months. And the reality is, they're midstream in redeveloping their project, and its ultimate lease up will determine the total parking needs. And so those parking needs may require them to build a garage or not. And depending on what the parking needs of their property are, they may have room for us, more room for us or less room for us, So that's a positive thing. We don't know if it'll solve it, but because those needs aren't determined yet, they said at least we'll give you 6 months is what they said, as I recall.
Right.
And it could be longer.
Where's
So
the location, Jim?
It's on San Pablo and
67th.
67th. It's the big old Marchand building that UC Berkeley owned a million years ago. So there's a health club that's opened or just about to open. There's Amazon has a retail store there. There's a bunch of industrial people in the back. They announced this week a big lease with UCSF John Muir Hospital, and that doesn't have all its approvals yet. And that medical use is a much bigger parking user than other possible uses. So they said, look, if they get the approval, we're going to need this much parking. If they don't, maybe we won't. Yeah. And so there's some uncertainty that may help us. So at least we're engaged with them, and they even have there's a way that it's possible for us to maybe even secure parking there, even if they have the big parking user, but price and terms are all undiscussed, really.
Right.
So at least we have a little more breathing room.
Right.
And someone who might help solve the problem.
How many square feet ideally is needed for the bus?
Well, we park on about an acre.
It's about 43,000 square feet right now. So there's definitely variances there. If we had driver parking somewhere else, then we would need obviously less. If we didn't have our bus yard trailer, office trailer on this site, and we leased space elsewhere, then obviously that space could be smaller.
But you don't do repairs there?
No.
Just parking?
No,
really?
we just do parking. If it's a repair, it's a light bulb or something,
But not motor repair?
No, those are all done at MB's Corp.
And one of the opportunities we have is our buses are 80% out during a really long business day.
Right.
I mean, midday some come back, but
right.
So there's an opportunity, like other people's normal commercial needs are totally on the opposite time frame of ours. So there is some efficiency in sharing with somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
So that you're just not building two spaces for,
Not to get too deep into it, but could Emery-Go-Round, if there was a parcel available to purchase, could they conceivably purchase a parcel?
So if there was a parcel up for purchase, I think we would be working with the city to purchase the parcel.
Well, the answer is yes.
Yes, yeah.
Whether we have the funds to do that
Right.
is where
the
city.
Better financing, really.
Yeah,
right.
The city has got $1 million in their 5-year capital improvement plan, notionally designated to support this effort.
Mm-hmm.
But that what that means is this is our plan. Has it really been committed? It's
allocated, right.
It's notionally committed.
Yeah.
Right? So they're part of this, they're a stakeholder in it, right? They need us to have a yard because they really care about the service and they're willing to invest in it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really where we stand. Those are sort of the building blocks, so to speak.
Right.
Anything else? I think that's
I
really
think
it.
that covers it, yeah. Obviously, finding a bus yard in this city is complicated.
But if you want to sell us something at a reasonable price, we'd consider it. I mean, I'm not kidding about
exactly.
it.
But it doesn't have to be in Emeryville. It could be in Oakland.
The only consideration that we'd have to take is if it's not in Emeryville, how close is it to the MacArthur BART station? The further we are from the BART station, the more operating hours we're going to incur. Yeah. So we just no, it does not have to be in Emeryville. But if it were reasonably close to the BART station.
Well, there's a cost to it being farther away.
Yeah.
In the past, we looked in West Oakland, and there's a whole sort of much more complicated, costly security issue in some other locations. Mm-hmm. So, but those are all sort of costs and hassles, right? So, okay, Ronnie.
Okay, thank you. So at the last meeting, we showed you the draft bus stop signage template and took comments from the board, which we've tried to incorporate. The confusion was whether we list all the routes and indicate the route served by a bus icon. We settled on let's just have the signs only read those routes that are served. There was also a question about whether we can put an indicator on those bus stop signs which are across the street from another bus stop that indicate that this one goes to the BART station, is a direct shot to the BART station. So, and we've also completed our real-time shuttle, securing the phone number, the text number, all of those details. So we've got the draft sign here, the route served, the times, the different types of service routes, the stop ID, This one is the example of having the two of the MacArthur BART station. We're waiting for BART's approval on our exception of using their logo. They have conceptually allowed us to use their logo, but their standards would make it so that this would not fit. So we've asked for an exception, and if they don't accept it, then we'll just remove the logo and it'll just say to the MacArthur BART station.
What would they do if we used it anyway, Ronnie? I mean, do they have logo police?
Yeah. No. I don't think they would do anything. Just trying to play nicely right now because we want to get our preferred location at the MacArthur BART station. So we've got the real-time shuttle arrival information. We've got the download the Emery-Go-Round app, or if you don't want to use an app or you don't have an Android or Apple phone, you can go to the egrshuttle.com, which is going to be a mobile website that you can access the real-time information. I will tell you the difference between the two. The app is a lot more user-friendly, more sophisticated, but the website will get you there. You'll get the information. It's just not as fancy. If you don't want to go to those options, you can call, enter your stop ID number, get the information. You can text and have a text sent back to you when your bus will be there. And if you have any other questions, you just call the Emery-Go-Round. So this is all going to be included on the stop sign. The colors are all going to look like this. This is not an example of a sign. If we had all the signs shown, with all the stops shown, this would have to be a longer sign. But these are all the colors that we've selected that match the routes.
And these are going to go at each
bus stop.
Bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah. There any?
I was just going to hand it around.
Sure, go for it. You can touch it. There's a graffiti guard film over it to help with removal of paint when if it gets tagged. If it gets scratched, there are some fill-in products they can use to reduce the appearance of those scratches, but so much damage we'd have to just replace the sign. The good news is these signs are very affordable. They're not as expensive as the cases that we currently have out there. So if a sign was badly damaged, we would just order another one, have them print it and install it.
Just two things. One, just make sure we've secured this domain name already, right, before we're going to print.
The Emery-Go-Round,
egrshuttle.com.
They have secured it.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe, yeah.
Because someone don't want to print it and then
No,
have someone take
exactly,
it.
Yeah.
And then just a small nitpick on the to MacArthur BART station with on that wording. And when we have it right there, it might be confusing between if we have all the color bands for the routes. Which one actually goes. It could be correct that to say this stop to MacArthur BART station, or all routes from this stop, or some condensed version of that.
Okay.
I don't know if that might be clearer, but beyond that, I think it looks great, and I think if we have it up on a pole, it's readable.
Okay.
Why don't we just let it pass around for a couple minutes and the rest of us can just daydream.
Try to figure it out. So you wouldn't have a map below it. You have to basically get another piece of physical information to see a map.
So what we would propose to do is when we go to our phase 2 signage project, similar to the one I described at the BART station, we would have those signs installed in all the shelters through the city. So not every stop would have the information, but those that have bus shelters would potentially have the posted map signage and all of the details. And possibly working with folks at Bay Street, the Hyatt, the hotels, having some nice signage at their facilities so they can easily, there's wayfinding.
So you can't have another sign that size, say below it with a map?
It would be very, very large, and we have 2 maps to deal with as well. And then you're looking at it from 7 feet in the air, so I'm not sure it would be visible that high, and I would think that you'd have to triple the size of that to add the maps to it. We can also look at other maps that we can post lower on the pole. The only concern there is that there's been so much damage to our poles, our signs now that are lower on the pole that do have the maps that
people just scratch them.
Within a week, you're replacing them. So unfortunately, the damage takes the signs out, and we're having to replace them, and it's a cost to the team. So.
Do we have a look at the kind of circular cylindrical turning map that can go around a pole that AC Transit has?
Like I said, we can look at all the other products that they offer. My concern again with anything attached to the pole is the damage that it's going to be out in the field.
So
if
now,
they have
in an
it.
ideal
So,
situation, you have a shelter where you could have
have it mounted in a case,
case.
or it wouldn't be encased. It would be just something similar to that's mounted, but not
physically mounted.
expensive to replace.
Yeah.
You know, looking at cost of knowing that we're likely going to have to replace these on a regular basis, we
Yeah.
want to look at the most cost-efficient product. to put
Because
out
I mean
there.
that works from the standpoint of being able to walk up to it, see it,
Right.
you know, having room to look
Right.
at the routes and the schedules.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Ronnie, will these colors also be on the buses which serve those routes?
So the colors won't be on the buses, but the head signs and
Yeah.
all the LED signage will
Mhm.
read the route name
Okay.
as it's shown there, or an abbreviated version of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Maybe to Bobby's point, you would just say return to MacArthur BART Station?
sure. Yeah,
If we think that that's
right.
a concern,
Right.
just so people know that, you know, all
Right.
of these go back to
All of these
MacArthur.
go, exactly.
So maybe just,
Right.
that's where you're heading back
Change
to.
two to return.
Maybe.
Maybe what might be helpful, to your point about color coding, is even when we do have a new service, maybe it's just to put a colored piece of paper in the front windshield. Although our display signs can't display color right now, or
Mhm.
I don't know if it eventually will, but there's something that helps to further reinforce. If I'm looking at red, if I'm maybe maybe someone who's illiterate or someone who may have a hard time seeing, then that color matching up from the red to maybe the red in the windshield or something might be helpful.
The only issue is that our routes change throughout the day, so we would have to be adding one step to the driver physically taking a red piece of indicator out of the window and putting it orange.
But they have to
Or
get there and
blue
they have
and
to change
purple.
the head sign too anyway in the computer.
The head sign is just a digit that they push on there. So they change the head sign, they get up, they potentially change the color in the window. Where would that be? We could look at color, indicators on the buses.
Yeah, I was just
As
curious.
long as it's effective, and it's not gonna be something that they just forget to change, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Just getting the head signs to change is sometimes,
Yeah.
I think people know to,
yeah,
look at the rounding.
Right.
What I think would confuse me if I were new to if I got off the BART station, got off at BART and looked at this, the Watergate bus always ran, the Watergate Express always ran separately from the standard route. So the standard route ran all day, Monday through Friday, and then in addition to that, there was the Watergate Express during the commute hours. Here, I don't think it's very clear that the standard service route is only going to be interspersed between the commute routes. And I don't know if people who are
Non-commute times, essentially.
Yeah, no, and my whole concern about about having the 5 commute routes is that people who are commuting to the office buildings or wherever it is they're commuting regularly, they take the same bus every day, approximately the same time, and at night they do the same thing. But I think that there are a lot of people like Ron who are coming, they're just using it occasionally, or they're people coming in to go shopping, and they're gonna look at this, and if I looked at this, I would think, oh, so all day it goes down the Hollis route. And then also during commute, I would also have these options. And I don't think, and I still find it confusing when I'm looking at these thinking, oh no, wait a minute, that's during commute hours, so it's gonna be these routes, and if it's then, an hour later, it's gonna be the standard service, which is gonna be a different route. And then it goes back to the different
Right.
routes. And so I don't think that the signage is very clear. It
Okay.
wouldn't be to me. I would.
So do you think under the standard service routes that we should just say, adding the hours would be problematic because you're dealing with 3 time frames, and I think it would just be a lot of information on there. We could try to
It's
do
a lot
that.
of information, but people need to know when they get on the bus.
Right.
So, like I think that the predominance of people who are going to be, people who are coming in for the first time or who only come in occasionally, are people who are going to the shopping centers. And anybody going to the shopping center, most of them, they don't really start to get busy until, around noon, 11 in the morning, noon.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that's like one type of service, and then they go to a movie or something and they leave, and suddenly they get a different, service. And I don't know that that's necessarily going to be immediately obvious to people. It wouldn't be to me, but.
What would you do then?
Well, I've been struggling with this whole thing. I mean,
Would
I
it
think
be,
that's
can
been
you,
clear
like, is
from
it
the
just say,
beginning.
look at the website? I mean, help people to know to use the resources that are on the sign? I mean,
Could we say like, during commute hours only, these, and then, or during non-commute hours only?
Yeah, maybe if it said during
these?
non-commute hours. I don't know, I don't know what a good answer is. I just know that that's something that's, I think the people who are not coming here on a regular basis are not necessarily going to understand. And
So I think the people that are, I understand your comment. We had a struggle as well, trying to figure out how we're going to message this to the riders.
Yeah.
And what we're gonna call it. Non-commute just seemed really weird wording, so we wanted to have standard service. This is the standard route plan.
But
The
it isn't a
exception is
standard
during
all
the-
day. It's
But
sort of
then during the
interspersed
commute, we have a
throughout the
special
day.
service that launches, so we kind of,
I think we do need to assume our riders, especially new ones, are taking some ownership of, I mean, I don't think they're coming to the shopping center on BART without having an idea how they're gonna get from BART to the shopping center, right? They will have they wouldn't just come to MacArthur and go, I'm sure there's a way to get to the shopping center, right? They're gonna have researched it a little bit, right?
I over and over and over, and I think Gina had mentioned this a few times when she talked about the problems that the drivers had in staying on schedule, is the number of people who actually get on the bus and say, is this the bus to Emeryville? And the bus driver says, well, where are you going in Emeryville? And they usually have to ask several times before they'll finally say, oh, they're going to Ross, or they want to go to the movies. And when it was the movies, it was, well, was it the movies at the public market, or was it the AMC?
right.
So there's a whole series of things. I do not think people, I would research it. I look the things up and I try to figure it out, but I do not think that everyone does.
I'm not sure, I mean, who knows, right? But when I use mass transit, I research it, but I always verify with the human.
Right.
So I'm not sure that means people don't know. They're just like, I'm afraid I'm wrong. Because, even if it says something, I mean,
Yeah.
It's the best thing to do is to go get on the bus and observe. And it's amazing how many questions the drivers ask.
If you took the bus every day at different times of the day, I think you'd be surprised at.
yeah, well, I'm not.
Because
familiar, I
it's
know
very
that.
different from other places, like, trying to think of an example.
London?
No, and I was just thinking, in areas where most of the people are coming in for, for business reasons. And, you've got, riders where everybody knows where they're going, and they know how to get there, and they know when the buses run. But when you've got a multitude of, you've got hotels, people coming in from other states, you've got, a multitude of shopping centers, it really is a very different experience.
Well, I think the one thing that's going to be a big benefit here is I think people are more app savvy. They're more using their iPhones to get themselves around. Now, I know that's not everybody, but I think a good majority of the people taking public transit will rely on that. And that is the information that's going to get them there. It's going to navigate the system. The bus stop sign won't necessarily do that. If they go on their app and they say, I'm here, drop pin, I want to go here, drop pin, and it'll tell them which route they're taking, which bus they need to get on, what time it should be there, and then the same in reverse. So I think the app will be a lot more sophisticated, and I think it's critical to getting the people where they need to go.
Well, one of the things that I noticed when I was trying to figure out the different schedules because of the whole thing with the drivers and the costs and everything, was that I was looking at the I don't remember whether it was the Hollis or the Shell Mound, but I was looking at it and I was thinking, okay, the buses are running like every 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden I realized that it said the tiny little line that says commute hours. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, that's a whole block of time. That isn't just like 1 hour or half an hour.
Right.
That's actually like 3 hours or 4 hours, where the times are very different. And you have to go to a different schedule to look at it.
Exactly.
I've observed in traveling that when you have a schedule posted and it has columns and rows, and it shows say on the top row of the column, it'll show Monday through Friday with the hours, or the hours might be on the left side.
Right.
And it's really logical. And I tend to, I don't agree with you on the apps, because I think very often people are trying to get somewhere. It takes time to download an app. They might, have to fidget around. A bus comes. I think a physical map with a schedule that a person can go up and read is the best system to get the information there to them the most quickly. And you have a physical challenge here in having a place to post it. It's very fundamental. I mean, the whole technology thing, there's a segment of the population that gets it, but there's a lot of folks that elderly people, they're not in the app world.
Right. I think we're going to have questions. I think that would be true with any bus service. The drivers are going to always be asked questions. We get phone calls for where does this bus come. If we have the signs at the BART station, okay, with the details, the route maps, the service, the commute, the service plan, the service overview table. I wasn't going to post schedules, but if we need to post schedules, we can include that. I think that's going to get us a lot farther at the BART station because that's our major transit hub.
Do we know what percentage of our riders pick up the bus not at MacArthur? Is it like 90% people on the service?
Is traffic going to and from MacArthur BART.
So they will have at
some point
they will have at some point, likely the first stop,
right,
gone to MacArthur at a spot that is transit hub in nature.
Right.
Been able to look at a sign, probably a large printed schedule if we have room for that on our signage program.
Right.
To say, okay, well, this is here. Here's the. I mean, I think that's an easy way to look as well.
Right.
I don't think you need that at every stop. I think that gets unwieldy. I think it gets confusing. And particularly if you've stopped at MacArthur and if you need to look, you've looked. And most people, if they're taking transit, they're going to go, well, what time's it coming back?
Right.
You're not going to, to Jeff's point, you'll do a little research. To begin with, you'll say, okay, well, I'm catching the bus now. I need to be back here at 2. I guess I should catch the 1:30.
Right.
That's just how people take transit.
Right.
I think it's rare that they'll just hop on a bus and go, hey, where am I going?
And they can always grab the route guide from the bus.
Well, that's right. So if we have route guides in the buses, if we have signage at MacArthur, I think, frankly, I think the signage posted at the stops, I think simpler tends to be better. And I get older people, I get people who might not speak English as their primary language, but there's only, I feel like the limited space that we have, this sign isn't going to be 6 feet long. There's only so much that we can put on the sign.
Right.
I think Betsy's point is a good one too. Maybe there's some minor change, tweak to the language about the standard service routes.
Right.
Well, why don't we, if we want to change it,
we can just call non-commute service.
I feel very strongly, we need to get the signage out there. Like that's where you started, right? That's where the meeting started. So we're polishing this really highly, but we need to we can always change it. This is not a big investment, right?
Yeah.
So if there's a change we can sort of recommend now, I think we should, but I'd hate to see we're spending more months, polishing the apple till the skin's off of it, right? So, well, is there a change we can make here that gets us?
Can we assign a task force or something for wayfinding, overall wayfinding for the whole system? Because it sounds like there's a lot of pain points here, in how to make the system more accessible. Normally I'm one to do research before I go and take transit, but I remember last year ending up in DC out in Tyson's Corners trying to figure out how to get to an office building. I thought there would be a shuttle, nothing. I had to ask 3 different people, and that's the kind of thing that I think is happening, that I see here. So I wonder if this is a larger issue, if we're seeing all these individual pain points, if we can take a look at the overall system, how do we make it most accessible to the most number of people? I was just going to make just 2 more suggestions, or 1 question. Are we ensuring that all the lines have unique colors then, I guess, just to make sure there isn't any confusion?
The colors are aligned to the routes that they serve,
And then, what is the customer service hours for this telephone number?
It's during the probably like in the morning to it's not totally defined.
Okay.
The dispatcher leaves anywhere between 7 and 8 o'clock, and then it goes to a recording.
At night?
At night.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not always defined. Sometimes it's earlier in the morning and sometimes it's later in the morning. So they get there anywhere between 5:30 and 6:30, and then they usually leave between 7 and 8.
Is that a live operator?
That's a live operator, yeah.
Not the Philippines or?
If you call
Not
after
yet.
that,
You never
sometimes it'll
know.
tell you, to, yeah. No, it's somebody on site. So we want someone to be on site until 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So someone's in our office, they know the routes. If they go and they call after those hours, they could be directed to call another number, and that's MV's hub, and they'll answer the phone, but they might not be as helpful because they don't know our routes as well as the people that are on our site.
So Ronnie, you're here seeking approval of those things to put up immediately, or,
Yes,
right?
well, if we
What are you asking us for?
if we want to go ahead with the service plan, I think the first conversation that we need to have is, are we set to go forward with the service plan? I think that I'm hearing some hesitations about the confusion. We talked before about this earlier in the spring. I think we had moved forward. We've got some cost considerations that we're dealing with our shuttle operations contract. Does the board want this to be put on hold for right now? Or does the board want us to move forward with the service plan? We will not launch the service plan until we have a full staff force ready to go to fill the needs. We are increasing the number of drivers needed, and we currently do not have drivers to run our service as it exists today. So the subcommittee will be meeting, hopefully after this meeting, to discuss the next steps with our operator. But first I want direction from the board as to whether or not we march forward or we put this on hold until the operator issues are worked out.
My impression is that, that there are going to need to be major changes, whether it's exactly this or it's some other rendition of it. But we're really not going to be able to do it until we have drivers anyway. So, and we are going to have a meeting that I think we all agreed, or Bobby wasn't here, but Jeff and you and I agreed that it needs to be done, really quickly. Then maybe we can just sort of iron this out, and then if at all, it's either staying the same or if there's, some slight modification. And at that point, when it gets closer to actually being in a position to actually move forward, that, people could vote at that time.
I'd almost like to pre-release you guys that once you have the service capabilities, that you've received the board's approval to proceed.
Okay.
Because if we have to wait,
Yeah, that's fine.
if you've got if a meeting gets delayed or canceled or you don't have a quorum,
Right.
Yeah.
and you're all ready to go and you're waiting for us to approve this and we can't,
Right.
then I would like to just get you going, because I think these service changes are important.
Very important.
Well, I agree with that because, the whole new 15-year P-bid gave us extra money to increase service. And that's our goal, that's our root mission, right? And so we're 9 months into the year.
Yeah.
So I agree.
P-bid was approved a year ago.
Right.
Yeah, last June.
And
So,
we're 5 months into implementation.
Well, actually,
We've already
August, it was
gone
August.
so
You
far
know,
to make these changes.
if hiring drivers costs some more money, we may have to have 5 or 10% less frequency of buses, but it'll still be a lot more than we have,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So we're going to spend our budget, I think. And I feel comfortable that where we are at this point are tweaks. I also agree with that.
I don't think
with
we
that also.
submitted well, do we want to make before I get sidetracked, do we want to make a motion?
I think we don't need a motion on that. The board already acted to put the service plan in place.
Okay.
I just
All right.
wanted to make sure that we just revisited this, given the situations
right.
that we're going through right now.
I
And
mean,
then,
for the new people, I've been on way too long on the board. But these are decisions we're changing. This system is tweaked kind of every 2 years to deal with realities, right? And so I'm not sure we're saying this is the 15-year plan. We're gonna, what this board does is sort of react to data that comes in from the system. Yeah, so.
But could we get in a situation where, we say let's go ahead, but we may not have the number of drivers we need, and maybe we have to cut back 5% and 10%, and now we're struggling to change materials and change signage, and we're kind of going, we're chasing our own tail in that situation, you know what I mean?
Well, like this doesn't say, these routes will exist, the frequency will change, that will change on the app. I mean, even if we get it drivers in a month, we could not have them 2 months later. I mean, they're not indentured servants, so, we don't have the ability to say we have the excellent plan and it's immutable for forever. I mean, I would love that,
Right.
but
but right now, today, we have trips being missed. And those trips result into 40-minute headways. So that's how the system is today.
I can attest that I didn't call it in because I don't take it often enough. It could have been like a fluke, but it should have been, 10 minutes, and it was 35 minutes. And so I can say yes, in fact.
It's not good.
It is not
good right now.
Exactly.
Things are really not, we need to take action as fast as possible. The service reliability is deteriorating at a rapid pace. We have to fix the problem with the operator.
That's a more fundamental problem in my view than 98%, 2% imperfect signage or whatever. And we can always buy new signs, but I'm worried that people will just opt out of the system. Very hard to get back.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so with just a few things that what I heard from this, so that we can keep going on. Oh, thanks, Mary.
Well, I would look, I'm going to make a motion.
Okay.
In the same vein, I'd like, if there are one or two people here that want to work on refining this 1 ounce more with Ronnie between now and the next meeting, I'm willing to, relinquish any feedback I have. I've given my feedback, and I'm happy to give that power to a couple people so that we can get it and not have to.
We could make a motion to approve the signage as a board with minor design tweaks to be approved.
Is that a motion?
I will move that.
I will second it.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Before we vote on it, can we have some volunteers for that group?
I will certainly give some thought to it because I see this is working differently than the current system.
I just want to make sure everyone who wants to be part of it is part of it. Bobby, you?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Anyone can join, Ronnie, but we're going to assume you two take the lead. We'll vote on this now. All in favor of the motion to approve this signage, subject to the subcommittees, any refinements they'd like to work on with staff between now and the next meeting, say aye. Aye. Any abstentions or no votes?
Okay.
No. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so we just picked up our route guides. I'm just going to forward them around. These are just sheet pages, so unfortunately they're going to be you have to kind of put them together. We addressed some of the comments that were discussed at the last meeting in terms of more notations as to where to find what, particularly the commute service and the standard service maps, or the schedules rather. We did make a change to the photos. I'm not completely sold on the photos on the cover. We can massage those later. I'm really looking at just overall comments on the schedule headers, the details listed on those schedule headers, and the other content listed. We did also include the
same
real-time tracking. So there's a few pages. It's kind of like overlapped, it's a little bit.
Yeah, it unfolds like a map. No, that's your package.
That's my package.
It'll fold nicely. I think we had a model at our last meeting.
Packs are 4 sheets.
Yeah.
Those are expensive.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Wow.
These are the actual sizes?
Yes, they'll be cut to this size. They'll be cut and folded, so it'll be.
Please.
Well, actually, you know what? I'm not sure if this is actually the size.
You get a magnifying glass?
The schedules here are going to be a little bit smaller to see.
For the below 30 crowd?
It might be a little bit bigger than this, actually.
You're showing your age, Ron. You don't know how to navigate the system. You can't read.
I use a headlamp for reading.
You're the dinosaurs that the millennials are waiting to go extinct, right? That's how I feel these days.
I'm in it for the long run.
And the clarity here also will be better with the real printouts. These are not the highest quality paper, and the cuts maybe.
How often do you print route guides?
So we'll probably start with a batch of 2,000 in case we have changes.
Yeah. How frequently do we have to go through?
We will probably go through the first 2,000 within the first 2 months, and then we'll just order more.
With that maybe instead of putting that date, people might think it's only good for September, but if they pick it up on October 1st, then I think that's expired. Maybe just have it effective September
Okay.
1st.
Ronnie, would it be possible to increase the width of this black strip so that it was like either maybe 2 or 3 blocks, so that it indicates that there's a substantial period of time in
Something like this is
between?
happening.
I can try to do that. I want to avoid having to squish the text of the
Yeah,
schedules
well,
even
maybe
further.
if
So
it were
we can,
two- if
if
it
we
were
can
two
make it a
lines.
little larger, okay.
So unfolded, this will be fully printed. This will be 11 by 17. Then
No, it will be, it'll be much longer.
It was an
It's-
accordion.
It's like an accordion fold.
It's not wider
So,
than this,
right.
right?
It is wider than this.
Oh,
It'll
it
be
is. I
really
mean-
long, yeah. Taller,
Height
yeah.
is the same.
No, I think the height is similar to this. Yeah, it's an accordion fold.
You had that mock-up last time.
I did, yeah.
I would just, I guess I would ask Rich, is this something that is easily kept at a front desk, easily kept in a holder for guests?
Most definitely.
Okay.
These are designed to fit in our route guide holders, and I think that's, yeah.
The standard.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the how to get there piece.
Yeah.
I think that's really useful. Do we have that right
And
now?
that's gonna be on the front fold, so when you open the route
Yeah.
guide, these are the details you're gonna see. You've got the holiday service, the service overview, the how to get there, and then all the real-time ways to use the applications that are available.
Oh, yeah,
I think we
this,
got it.
I like this.
Yeah, that's a good. Could I request that public market be put onto the offices part of the list?
Of course, where is
Thank
it
you.
now?
I don't know, it's probably just, grouped together with Emeryville.
Oh, you know what, I think it's under the
Shopping.
shopping and
Under the
entertainment.
shops, but,
Yep,
you know,
okay, you want it
there's
to be
a-
office.
You know.
Do you want it duplicated? Can I list it both places? Just because you've got the public market, you've got
Yeah.
the shops,
You can
the,
just call it that, we refer to it as offices of public market.
Okay,
You just say
sure.
offices of public market.
yeah, we can have that.
So I was trying to find the stop that's in front of our hotel.
On the schedules?
Is
On
that
the
24?
weekend service.
Oh.
24?
20 on
Showing
the
them
map.
Christie northbound?
Oh, it isn't. Oh, no, wait a minute.
Yeah, you can see end of
Yeah,
the.
24.
No, it's end of the Bay Street.
Yes, 24. When
Rodney,
we put your business place, the name of the hotel on the, if you go to the standard service map, which is not the, let's see, oh yeah, it's on both. Your Hyatt place is right next to the stop 24.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
on your how to get there, could you have the bus stop number printed next to those destinations? For instance, just start at the first one, so you have Bay Street, shops, theaters. Wouldn't it make
Some
sense?
have multiple stops.
That's true, we do, and they have multiple routes too, we've only listed those that are most efficiently serving the route. So we'd have to make that determination of what stop would most effectively serve that location.
Closest one?
Yeah.
I mean, it just would be a handy guide
Okay.
to a person that wouldn't know.
Is there a reason that CVS Pharmacy got such special call
I
out?
agree.
Where's that at?
It's in shopping, it's the third one down.
I
It seems,
agree.
It's
Only-
alphabetical order, I know it's silly.
no, but I mean, you're not listing
Yeah.
every store.
Right.
There's gonna be a
Right.
buyout soon
This is the
anyway.
one case where it's,
Right,
I don't-
it's been grandfathered on this list forever, so we
yeah,
never knew.
I would recommend we take that off because it seems
Mhm.
preferential.
Yeah, that's fine.
Everything else is either a shopping center or IKEA really is so big and it's a big payer that I understand, even though they're one retailer, why that's listed there.
Probably the
Maybe you should give
first
City
association
Hall.
most people have with Emeryville, so probably. Good.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, give them City Hall, it's not here.
Why, no, since it's alphabetic, do you call it Emeryville Public Market, or I was looking for P for.
No, I
public
know,
market.
you know what, it actually, our website is emeryvillepublicmarket.com,
Oh, okay.
so.
Okay.
Actually, what might be helpful, your point is to maybe move the how to get there closer to the map, and that way we can kind of eliminate if you.
Well, but see, you don't, if you say you want to go somewhere and you look this up, residential,
Mhm.
And then how am I gonna find these apartments, artistry apartments? Then I'm gonna look all over the map, but if you had a little note that said bus stop number, just something to kind of tie it in.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
For
the signs?
Well, on the how to get there,
We would just
have
use the
I would use the bus
numbers.
stop number, because those numbers are clearly indicated under the bus stop list on the map. You can see the numbers.
Well, some have multiple stops, but if this is someone who really is struggling, at least one stop would get them really close,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So I mean, if there's room for that, I don't object, and so,
Bus stop number with the.
but I don't know if there's room, Ronnie, so.
We're getting tight on our size, but I'll see what Leslie can do.
Why not, I'm gonna move, aggressively move that we adopt this with the same caveat as the bus stop signage, that between now and the next meeting, if there's any subcommittee the same or different that wants to tweak it with staff, that I recommend we deputize those people to do so.
One clarification though, just on bureaucracy here, did we have to get Bart to approve this as well?
We've already updated the standard to BART's, so they've approved these.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions? None. Okay. Anyone want to raise their hand for this? Ron, you on this one, or
What's that entail?
to help?
Finalize the route.
Finalize
I'll make myself available by phone. Not physically in a place.
And Bobby, Betsy, you want be part of that, or are you okay?
I'm actually okay with the schedule.
Okay.
Do we want to group it in together the same?
I'm just asking. You know, here Ron cares a little more about this, so he's going to make himself available. So,
Yeah.
Bobby, it sounds like he'll make himself available.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll make myself available.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I assume, what I had thought was if we had any little tweaks, we would just send an email to everybody and say, does this tweak seem to make you improve it or not?
Mhm.
And
The motion really just means the rest of us don't have to
worry about it.
It's
ratify
approved,
those
yeah.
tweaks, right?
Exactly. And we can conduct those changes via email.
We trust you guys that you'll do a great job.
Yes, no, we don't just trust, we're expecting and relying on that.
Complete redesign.
Yeah.
The photo, Bobby's photo is there, right? What next, Ronnie?
Okay, the next item is, I think we've kind of covered this already, the status of the shuttle operator, performance and readiness of service implementation. The answer is we are not ready. We are currently short 5 drivers to run the new service, and we are currently short 2 drivers to run the service as it exists today. For what it's worth, MV has subcontracted 2 drivers from another service to run our service and provide coverage where we were lacking. We are still struggling to meet runs, to meet trips, and have a high volume of missed trips as we are today. They are still recruiting. There's people in the process. If they don't pass their test, they're going to take it again. There's this whole process they have to go through. And I think that the actions of the subcommittee will hopefully address some of the issues that we're experiencing with that. This is our critical path item right now.
What did you say the spread was between the current market wage and that is being paid and your wage to drivers?
It varies depending on the type of service that they're driving for. So if they're
Just
driving,
as a range.
it could be a variance of $10 an hour. So depending on the service of starting wage.
Yeah.
So if you're driving for the tech shuttles, your starting wage is significantly higher than what they're currently being paid now.
Do you think that's the primary change in other than just the employment nature of the Bay Area right now? But I mean, that seems to be a fundamental change in public transportation, that you've added a private component.
Right. I think that in the industry, for sure,
Yeah.
it's a problem. And it's nationwide, it's not just the Bay Area.
Right.
I think it's also the economy is really good right now, and there are other jobs out there, maybe not driving jobs, and the Emeryville minimum wage was set, and that creates more opportunity as well for drivers to jump over to something totally different than driving. So,
and if you raised your wage, I know you mentioned with some union complications and that, but if you were able to raise your wage, you'd have to raise it across the board probably,
yes.
right? And how does that affect your, say, your annual budget? If you had to go up 30% or 25%?
I think we're looking closer to 10 to 20%.
What, in absolute dollars, just?
$120,000 to $240,000 a year.
And the wage differential?
That would be the wage differential. That would be the increase to the overall system cost.
In terms of our total budget, which is like a
$1.6 million. Oh, our total, yeah.
Our total budget,
yeah.
It's
like
a very
26.
small percentage and
Right.
within our contingencies. So it's not like a system stopping impact, right? We want to do it prudently, but we can afford to do it if we need to.
So is there anything besides that whole union negotiation aspect that's preventing you from saying, let's bite the bullet? And
there's nothing preventing me from biting the bullet and making some changes.
to get your driver
to get the
numbers
compensation
up.
set to be more competitive with other.
Well, I mean, last meeting, you empowered a committee to work with Ronnie. Some of us have done that. She's taken steps with MV. They're close to a plan, but they're not there.
Right.
And Ronnie's going to be meeting with the committee again, really focused on real time. We can't wait forever to do it. And your hope is to have a plan to execute officially in the next meeting, right?
Right.
And I guess
Ideally before, if I can get a special meeting scheduled, then we would do that. I think it's that important.
So you'll have more to report next month?
Well, wasn't that,
I don't want to get it resolved
wasn't
before
that
next
what
month.
Kim was
Yeah.
suggesting, was that, weren't you suggesting that if we reached something that you would empower that to move forward, if there was something that, or do you
Well, I
want it to
think
go back
that's
to the?
I think that's relative to the route change. If we need the
Oh,
bus
okay. I
drivers
thought you were talking about
well,
the
I
other-
would, I mean, you could either set up a special meeting and try and do that. To use Jeff's term, you could deputize the executive committee of the board to make that decision, or the subcommittee. So
Because we're doing a contract change, it
It
has
needs
to
to
be
be the
approved by
whole
the board.
board. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
That's where it comes down to. The subcommittee can work out the details and the negotiations with the operator, but we would have to bring back the contract change to the board
Okay.
for approval.
All right.
But
Maybe
I
we just do a
don't
special.
think, again, I think Ronnie believes there's a solution that we can afford,
Right. We just need to
Yeah.
all be comfortable with the decision and make sure that we're making the decision to make a substantial change, not just, we'll give a little bit, but really we need to
And this was in
make
our,
sure this is gonna
this
have
would
an
be
impact.
in our contract with MV for the drivers that they hire.
Right.
That's
Right.
kind of the A to
Exactly.
B to C.
And then that contract is always cancelable with cause, and you've been establishing a cause pattern
Exactly.
formally, but absent cause, it ends at the end of 17?
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to rebid well in advance of that and test the market, and the market, if we do that, the market may say, oh yeah, you actually, what
You're
you
paying
did,
that anyway.
or
Exactly.
what
You're
you
gonna-
did isn't even enough going
Yeah.
forward,
Right.
right?
I will
So-
tell you that will be the case. If you
Yeah.
rebid the contract, it's gonna be significantly higher than it is right
Yeah,
now,
for sure.
so.
Well, we've got a long relationship with them too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So did that take care of D
So
as well?
that takes care of D as well. D is a stricken item from the agenda. We're not gonna take action today on an amendment to their agreement. That will be handled at the special meeting of the board. Okay, moving on to item E. We have a review and approval of Amendment 6 to the bus fueling agreement with AC Transit. We have historically benefited by use of AC Transit's fueling facility within the city of Emeryville. We have an agreement with them to use their facility for fueling at a favorable fuel price with a 42-cent markup per gallon to cover their overhead.
But with that markup, it's still favorable.
Very favorable. And this would be our sixth amendment to the agreement to further extend the term 2 additional years. We were also successful in negotiating an earlier fuel time. We were having problems meeting our first stops because if the bus had no fuel, they had to go to the station, and we have to be at the station at 6, and our fueling hours started at 6. So we bumped that up to 5:30, and they were agreeable to that.
Ronnie, how is in 3A on page 2, it says that the compensation is the average monthly fuel cost.
So they have an average monthly fuel cost that so fuel prices change for them too.
Yeah, right.
So they look at the average and they
I
set
see.
our fuel price based on what their wholesale fuel costs are.
I got it.
Just out of curiosity, what was it like last month?
Oh my gosh, sorry, I don't know exactly what it was. Our monthly bill has been about $14,000, so.
He wants to know how much a gallon.
A gallon.
I know.
I'm looking at it like, can we
And
listen
we
to
have-
6 now? But we're probably better here.
Do you know what the,
Wholesale.
you review the invoice
The-
more closely,
the
the
annual-
diesel and
I can see the invoice in my head,
I
but
know.
I can't.
I-
It's got
Probably
liters,
like
diesel.
Yeah.
$2.50 a gallon or.
it's definitely competitive with the market with regular gas stations, so.
Okay.
And it's conveniently located,
Conveniently
so you're not
located.
spending,
And we're not dealing with gas cards, and we're not dealing with reconciling gas cards of the operator. There's a convenience thing here that's a really big benefit to us to be able to. AC Transit's got the system dialed in. Every bus is tracked, every driver's tracked, codes have to be entered, so Mary has to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and Gina does as well to make sure that it matches the driver logs, so.
5:30 though, is that, are we still having to yield to other AC Transit buses? And are they still taking priority, like, even though we open this up to 5:30 for the drivers, could there still be a problem where we're queuing behind other buses?
We don't have that happen very often,
Okay.
so, and I think whoever's in line first goes to fuel their bus. I don't think they're gonna say, Emery-Go-Round, you have to wait to AC Transit drivers get to fuel their buses. I think it's whoever's in line goes to the gas, gets the pump, and we've never had a problem, or we had a problem reported to us by our operator that we've been held up at the station there, so.
so you're recommending approval of this
I'm recommending
contract.
approval of this
Does anyone move
extension.
that?
I'll move.
Bobby moves it.
I'll
Second. Ron seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? None.
Great. Moving on to item F. This is the second quarter financial report. For those of you new to the board, just to get you familiar with the layout here, we've got the 2016 budget that was approved by the board of directors in the city, shown in the first column. The revenue is shown on top, the expenditures are shown at the bottom. The actual revenue received to date is in column 2, and the actual cost to date is shown there in column 2 as well, under the expenditure side.
Hey, Ronnie, with the receipt of the PBID revenue, if the second installment is received in the third quarter, and then the third installment would be.
We only get 2 installments.
We get 2 installments.
Yeah, so we get 1 installment in January
I
and 1 in
see.
July.
I
So
got it.
we got
Okay.
it in quarter 3
Got
because
it.
it fell in July.
Great. So.
And we've already
The
received
third,
that.
so the third quarter financials
We'll
will show
report the full-
100% of the
Exactly,
revenue.
the revenue
for the year.
shown,
Got it.
right.
Okay, great.
And I should note that on the second page, there is West Berkeley Shuttle and City of Emeryville 8-to-Go paratransit service. These are revenue-generating projects that we operate, well, West Berkeley is. The 8-to-Go paratransit is a reimbursable project. Because we operate on a cash flow basis, on our financial reports, these financial reports, our financial statements at the end of the year on an accrual basis, a little bit different. The revenues that we receive for these services might trickle over into the next year, so sometimes you'll see a higher revenue amount there received than we budgeted. That's because we received revenues from the prior year services. At the end of the year, it kind of always washes out, though. You've got 12 payments received, 12 and 12, so. I believe it was you, Tim, that asked at the last meeting to have the variance shown in a dollar amount, which I've included here, and then a percentage of the I guess revenue received or
Yeah.
budget expended.
And that's helpful. Not to nitpick, I guess what would be helpful would be to see the variance to the similar period of time. So.
Oh, you're saying cumulative variance?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, we can track, okay, through the second quarter, we're right where we should be, or, kind of when you
Right.
sent out the financials for the executive
Sure.
committee last month. Just
And-
to see how.
Right. And for the most part, we run on a kind of monthly cost basis. There are very
Right.
little items that come once a year that would skew those numbers,
That's
so.
Well, and
Um,
quarterly too, you're gonna just really see the trends as
Right.
opposed to.
Exactly. We are running below budget. That is because we have not implemented our service plan and the higher service hours. Let's see here. So yeah, basically that's what you're seeing overall, is we are trending below budget.
Because we're serving less.
Yeah.
So,
On the Emery-Go and the West Berkeley shuttle.
We'll shut the system, save a lot of money.
Still a lot of money,
Professional
right?
service contract,
Professional service.
that's our management of the contract. And
Oh, okay, I noticed
Yeah.
one of them was way above, considerably above 50%, the other is way below, just wondered.
That's because we had to prepare the amendment request and all of the documents. We
Okay,
had to
I
do
was just
substantial
curious
reporting to the
what
city.
was covered by
We had
that.
to validate the MV cost changes. There's a lot more that goes into it when we're actually planning for an amendment.
Oh,
So,
I'm sure.
and now we shouldn't have that continue through the end of the year, so we should be right on point there.
Thanks.
How did you count the ridership? How did you actually?
So the
count it?
ridership is tracked. So, okay, first let's do we have any other comments on the financial report? No?
Yeah, one question on
Sure.
that. So since we have implemented the new service schedule and are we banking that money and we're gonna have to spend that within the year? Is that?
No.
Okay,
If we don't spend the money, it goes into our cash reserve.
okay.
So we hold on to it and then we can spend it next year if we want. Nonprofits are always, their financials are done on a year-by-year basis. So we just have to note our cash reserve and what that purpose of that cash reserve is. They want to make sure we're not making a profit because we're a nonprofit. So we do annual financial statements.
Any other questions on the financials?
Okay?
Okay.
Moving on to the ridership reports. To answer your question, we have, the bus drivers use manual passenger counters. So they've got a clicker, and every route they have to co-count the passengers that they're getting on. It's not the most accurate way of counting passengers, but it gives us the only data that we have right now. With our new system, our new real-time tracking system, there will be a way for the driver to, again, manually count, but using the system itself. So there's going to be a screen and a way for them to hit passengers on, passengers off, so we can get a boarding by stop. Again, it's going to depend on the driver's accuracy of using those applications. And when we go through the service implementation training with the drivers, we're going to stress those points in the use of that tracker. Having said that, the ridership shown here for 2016 is, I believe, a correct trend. I think we are trending lower than we have in prior years. I think we've lost riders this year.
Do you think that's primarily due to service?
The service reliability.
issues?
Yeah.
Is concerning is that March number, is a particular reason for that?
The March drop is likely because of the spring break that fell in March this year instead of April. We noticed the same thing with other services that we're managing, that there was a dip in March, and I think people just maybe drove to work during that week or didn't come to work at all.
The downward trend from 14 to 16 is interesting. You'd think that as the economy improved, maybe you would have more people
Taking,
but maybe gas is the
Uber.
gas
well,
is,
that's
it's
a
a very
possibility.
good,
I've
yeah.
thought about that too, but
Uber's there, but gas prices have been very favorable.
That's right. So
We
it's
will
probably-
notice, if the gas increases, we'll notice an increase in
That's right.
ridership.
That's
So, there's a lot of, definitely factors that play into it. But I think reliable service will help us build that ridership up again.
This might be a silly question, but I mean, do we know what, within our, I guess, encatchment area, like, do we know who we're not reaching effectively? Like, for example, like on Hollis, I know we're missing obviously the weekend people, but is there a number or percentage of city population, city residents that we know that we're not fully servicing or that we may be missing, that we could recapture, in terms of like market share?
Because we don't have ridership by stop, it would be hard to say. But
We'll be able
I
to
think
get that
I think
data.
we cover the city quite well,
Mhm.
and I think we have ridership pretty much coming from everywhere. Whether we can boost those percentages, I think we can, if the service was.
we'll have that data.
And the
once we get
application
new
will encourage the use of it.
System, right?
What was that?
Will we get stop
We-
rider by stop
we will,
data?
with the new system.
new system?
We'll have,
So it's
far
at that
more.
point, once we have that information, if we wanted to, try
Exactly.
particular outreach in certain areas based on,
Right.
well, this stop here,
Increase awareness.
public market tower, nobody's riding the bus, why don't we promote the bus?
Promote the bus more, exactly, yeah.
was gonna say Wareham, but I know everyone uses the buses.
We have, their friends are using it with them, so.
Right. Are there any other questions on the ridership summary? That completes our business for today. Thank you. Any other suggestions or requests from board members that we haven't covered yet? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting
Next
adjourned.
meeting.
The next meeting is going to be scheduled for October 20th at 9 a.m. However, we will have a special meeting, exactly. Mary will have to query availability of the board via doodle poll for the special meeting once the committee is determined when we're ready to have that meeting. So that will effectively be the next meeting. Okay. If the special meeting we conduct the business we need to do, then we might not have to meet in October. So we'll see. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.